Hi there, welcome to today's gentle movement class. All you need for today's class is a chair. You can use a mat if you like to, but we're not going to the floor today, so it's up to you. You don't necessarily need one. And the other thing that I recommend, if you have it, is 2 hiking poles. I like to use the hiking poles sometimes in standing as a form of support. You could also just put your hand or hands on the chair, but when we use the poles, you still have that freedom of movement of the arms, which can be a nice option. So hiking poles are better if you have them because the bottoms are flat, but if you only have ski poles, that's fine. However, be aware that it's not going to be supporting you. It's there more for a little bit of guidance, a little bit of balance, but if you've got ski poles, that's not what you want to be putting your full weight on. You could also use broomsticks upside down, but again, same thing. The hiking poles will actually give you that solid support. Ski poles and upside down broomsticks are not going to be as solid, so just be aware if you're choosing that. So go ahead and take your time to get into a seated position. What I recommend is, depending on how long your legs are, if you're tall enough, you can go ahead for now and sit with your spine against the back of the chair, but only if you can keep your feet solidly on the ground. If you're more like me and you have shorter legs, you want to sit perched forward on the chair so that your feet can be solid on the ground. Now, throughout all of today's class and throughout every class that you ever do, the most important thing is to listen to your body. So regardless of what instructions or what sequences I might be guiding you through, if at any point you need to shift, you need to change positions, you need to stop and take a break, it's always okay to do so. It's more than okay. It's highly, highly encouraged that you do so. A big part of learning how to get back to movement again is learning how to understand what your body needs. So regardless of what someone else is guiding you through, on any given day, you may need something different. So feel more than okay to listen to your body. So having said that, for my own pain, this is not comfortable for me for very long. So I'm actually going to sit cross-legged. So if that's better for any of you, feel free to do that as well. But for most of you, you'll probably feel more comfortable to have the feet on the ground. So whatever position you've chosen, just take a moment to get present here in your body, here in the room that you're in. Let everything in the outside world fade away for the time that we're doing this class together today. And then eyes closed, just bring your awareness to the breath. For now, we're not trying to influence it in any way. We're not trying to manipulate it in any way. We just want to observe, what is our breath doing for us today? So there are a few different things that you can bring your awareness to. Let's start by noticing the temperature of the breath as we bring it in through the nostrils, and compare that to the temperature of the breath as you exhale through the nostrils. Is it different? And then bring your attention to the sound of your breath. What does it sound like as you're bringing it in? And what does it sound like as you're exhaling? And then what about the rhythm? If you mentally counted how long it takes you for you to inhale and to exhale, are they equal? Are your inhales longer than the exhales? Are your exhales longer than the inhales? There's nothing to change. There's no right or wrong answer. You simply want to notice, what is your breath doing today, when we're not trying to manipulate it. And then notice what parts of the body expand as you breathe in, and what parts of the body retract as you breathe out. And lastly, just trace the path of the breath. So as you bring the breath in through the nostril, notice how it then goes down the back of the throat, enters into the lungs, and it enters first the top, then the middle, then the bottom of the lungs. And on your exhale, it does the reverse. It exits, comes out from the bottom, the middle, the top. It goes back up through the throat and out the nostrils. Gently open the eyes At any point, feel free to shift around or change positions as needed. Now we're going to do a few breath exercises where we are trying to affect a change in the breath. So the first one, you're going to place your hand on your sternum, on your breastbone. And for this particular breath, on the inhale, so imagine my other hand is my sternum. On the inhales, I'm going to exaggerate it. Imagine that your breath is going to puff the sternum out towards the front and tilt it a little bit towards the sky. On the exhales, that sternum is going to sink in towards your spine and slide a little bit towards the floor. So bring your attention to that and try to send all of your breath underneath that hand. Eyes open or closed, whatever works better for you. Go ahead at your own rhythm. And notice, are you getting that little lift, that little puffing out of the sternum on the inhale? And are you feeling that little bit of sinking in and sliding down on the exhale? Keep going. For a lot of people, the tissues underneath that sternum can be tight. It's an area where we tend to hold a lot of our stress, a lot of our anxiety, a lot of sadness too can get the tissues tight in this area. So you may at first not feel that sinking in of the sternum, and that's okay if that's the case. The best way to get it to eventually sink in is to just slowly let it happen. Rather than trying to bully it into sinking, that tends to just make it tighter. You want to just use this particular breath exercise, this placement of the hand, the awareness of bringing your attention to this area, and you'll see that over time it will start to soften under there. One last breath here. And release the hand. Second breath exercise we're going to do today, you're going to place your hands on the lateral rib cage, the lower ribs. If this position here is uncomfortable for your hands, your wrists, your shoulders, or your neck, the other option is to place the back of the fingers against the outside of the ribs, whatever works for you. And again, if you need to change positions or shift around, please do so. So this time, as we breathe in through the nose, you want to feel the ribs expand laterally into your hands. And on the exhales, you want to feel that those ribs narrow in towards the center. So a little bit like an accordion. Inhale, they get wider. Exhale, they get narrower. So you go ahead at your own rhythm and bring your awareness to that lateral expansion of the ribs. So it feels quite different from the previous exercise that we did when we were putting all of our attention into sending the breath under the sternum. We're bringing the breath much lower. We're bringing our awareness much lower. And we're trying to get that movement of the lower rib cage. So if you're not feeling any movement at all, sometimes it can be helpful to put a little bit more pressure with the hands, just so that you're giving the nervous system some biofeedback. You're giving it a tactile something to relate to, telling it where you're trying to get the breath to go. For some of you, you might find that you're getting the expansion on one side of the rib cage but not the other. And if that's the case, bring more awareness and attention to the side that's not expanding, and or put a little bit more pressure with that hand so that you're just trying to wake that side up a little bit. Last two breaths. And release that. Go ahead and shift or change positions as needed. For this next one, we're going to be breathing one hand on the lower belly, one hand in the small of the back, and you want to feel that on the inhales you're expanding front and back. On the exhales it all softens in towards the center. So go ahead, on the inhales expand into the lower belly, lower back. On the exhales, let it all sink into the center. Going at your own rhythm. Keep going. Now, when we talk about bringing the breath down into the belly and into the lower back, it's not that we're actually sending air into the belly. The air that we take in through the mouth and through the nose only goes into the lungs, but the movement of the diaphragm, so on the inhale, the diaphragm drops down, and when it does so, it compresses the abdominal organs, which expands the volume into the whole lower belly area, so the front, the sides, and the back. So that's what we're feeling. not that we're filling our belly with air, it's that we're using our diaphragm well. We're allowing it to float up and down like a jellyfish, so that we get that displacement of the abdominal organs, which gives us a sensation of filling into that whole abdominal area. 2 more breaths. And release that. And then lastly, we're going to put all 3 of those together. So all at the same time, we want to bring breath into the sternum, into the lateral rib cage, into the front and back of the belly. Use your hands. We only have 2 hands, so choose wherever you would like to place your hands. I'm going to choose one on my lower back and one on my sternum, but you go ahead and choose whichever 2 placements you want, and feel free to change it as you go along. So let's do 4 or 5 more breaths here at your own rhythm, breathing in and out through the nose. On every inhale, you want to float the sternum, expand the lower lateral ribs, and fill into the belly and lower back. And on the exhale, all of that softens in towards the center. Again, feel free at any time to change your hand placement. If you're not sure you're successful at getting the breath going into a certain area, just change the hand position so that you're helping the part that you're less aware of. Last 2 breaths. Excellent, and just let the arms go. If you need to shift around, please do so. I'm now going to turn my chair a bit on a diagonal. I like to do this so that I'm on the corner of the chair. You do what feels good for you. So whatever position you've chosen, you want your feet to be firmly on the ground, and you want your feet and knees to be pointing a little bit out on a diagonal. We're going to start with the hands facing down on your thighs, and take a moment to get weight into your sit bones and to gently stack your spine on top of the sit bones, so that if you were to look at yourself from the side, it would all be lined up in a nice straight line without too much effort to be there. From this position, you're going to shift your weight forward enough so that you feel like the muscles in the back of the body, the muscles alongside either side of the spine, kick in, they turn on, they wake up, because they're trying to help you to keep you from falling on your face. So notice that, and come on back to the center. Do that same thing again. So tip forward with your whole torso until you feel that moment when the muscles in the back of the body turn on, and they're essentially holding you to keep you from falling forward. And come on back to the middle. Now we're going to do the opposite. So we're still keeping the spine in one straight line, and we're going to tilt backwards until you feel the muscles in the front of the body turn on to keep you from falling back. And come on back to the middle. So we're not arcing the spine, we're taking it all in one piece, hinge back, and just go to the point where you feel those muscles in the front of the body wake up, they turn on, and back to the center. Same thing going to the side. So we're not trying to tilt, we're going to keep our spine in one piece, and we're going to shift our weight over onto one cheek until you feel that the opposite side, the muscles on the opposite side, they wake up to keep you from falling over. Come on back, we'll do that same side again. So tilt over onto one cheek until you feel that edge where that whole side body fires up to keep you from falling over, and back to center. Same thing other way. Tilt over onto one cheek till you feel the muscles on the opposite side kick in. Notice that. Come on back. One more time. And come on back. So now you want to try to find that sweet spot that's in the center of all of those movements we just did, so that neither the front, the back, nor either side of the body is having to work too hard to keep you from tipping over, but they're all working together as a group, and because they're working as a group, they don't have to work so hard. So it might take you a moment to sort of explore your space. But see if you can find that sweet spot in the middle of all those movements we just did, where your body is working the least amount possible. And that's where we want to try to live as we're doing our seated exercises here today. From here, keeping your hands on your thighs, you're going to slide your hands forward and round through your spine into flexion. On the inhales, slide your hands back on your thighs to bring yourself into a bit of extension. So you keep going at your own rhythm, and how big or how small you make that movement depends on how it feels in your body today. So if it feels like you're really stiff and sore in the spine today, start really small and think of it like oiling the Tin Man. You're using these movements to oil joints. Motion is lotion. So I just want to show you from the side. We're sliding the hands forward to round the spine into flexion. We're sliding the hands back to extend the spine. And how big or small you make that is completely your choice. One last time, either way. And then take a moment to explore your space and find that sweet spot in the middle where no part of your body is working too hard to be there. Letting the arms hang, you're going to go into a side bend, so leaning over to one side, come on back up tall. We're going to alternate sides. And here again, how big or how small you make that really depends on how it feels in your body today. It's always better to start small. And if that feels good and it feels safe, then you slowly build on it. How fast or slow you go has nothing to do with what speed I'm going at. You want to go with how fast or slow feels good in your body today. Notice how I'm allowing my head to follow the curve of the rest of my spine, as opposed to keeping my head straight but allowing the rest of the body to curve. You want to let that head follow so that your spine makes the letter C once you get into that side bending action. One more time each side. And again, at any point, if the number of repetitions that I'm doing feels like it's too many for you today, you just stop, you take a break, you do a different movement if you feel to, or you take a complete rest if you need to. Last one, we're going to place our hands back on our thighs. This time, one hand slides forward as the other slides back, so that's going to create a little bit of a turn through our torso. And we do the opposite. So we twist a little bit. Start small and build on it as you go along. So you have two options with the head. So either the head stays looking forward the whole time as the torso twists, or you take the head with you. There's a third option, but I won't give it to you yet. So for me today, it feels better to take my head with me, so I'm going to do that. But for you, it might be different. So listen to what your body's saying. And I encourage you to play with the rhythm on this one. So there's some really nice benefit to going very slow, but there's a different kind of benefit to going quickly. So explore the rhythm and see which feels better for you today. I'm going to slow it down again. Don't feel like you have to follow me. You go with what feels good in your body. And then the last option is you can turn your head opposite the direction of the torso. Only if that feels good for you. But explore it and see if that's something that you like today. Last two, let's keep the head facing the center. And come on back to the middle. Take a moment to be grounded through your feet. Find that sweet spot in your body. So do that little exploration of where you find that position where you're neither the front, back, nor either side are moving or working too hard, but they're all coordinating together to make it very easy for you to sit here in the center. Then we're going to take it up to standing. So you can have your chair turned to the side and feel free at any time to use it as balance. For myself, it's challenging to be in standing for too long, so I like to use the hiking poles. You do what feels good for you. So let's just start by doing that same exploration that we did in sitting and do it in standing. So first get grounded into your 2 feet, with or without poles, with or without support on the chair, it's as you wish. We're going to shift the weight forward like you're all in one piece, like you're on a ski hill, and you go just until that edge where you feel the muscles along the back of the body fire to keep you from tipping over. Just notice that. Come on back to the center. We'll do that again. Hinge forward, all in one piece, and notice that moment where the muscles along the back of the body have to turn on to keep you from tipping over onto your face. And come on back. Then we go in the opposite direction. Lean back. We can't go very far in this one. And we're not looking to arch. You want to go in that straight line until you feel those muscles along the front of the body fire up to keep you from falling backwards, and you come back to center. Same thing again. Tilt it back. Your toes might leave the floor. That's okay. Hold and come back to center. Then we're going to tilt over to one side. So most or all of your weight will come to one foot. Feel how the opposite side of your body kicks in to keep you from tipping over. We'll do that same side again. So you're not side bending, you're keeping the spine all in one piece. And notice when that opposite side kicks in to keep you from falling over. Same thing other side. And notice how on one side, it might be much sooner or much later that you feel those muscles kick in. And back to center. So now, you may want to do a little circular pattern. Do what feels good to you to find that sweet spot where you're kind of at an in-between of all those movements we just did, so that neither the front, the back, nor either side are working too hard. They're all coordinating together so that this standing position is fairly easy. Okay? So whether you've got poles, a chair, or nothing, we're going to do a little bit of a sitting back, like a baby squat, like you're trying to sit into a chair and come back up. If you're using poles, you're going to send the arms forward as the bum goes back. If you're using nothing, you'll do the same thing. So we're going to bring the arms a little bit forward as the bum goes back and come back. Let's have the thumbs pointing towards the ceiling. And a little bit of a V with your arms. So they're not straight out in front of you, they're going a little bit out to the sides. 2 more like that. And come on back up tall. At any point, if you want to switch back to your chair, you go ahead and do so. So standing on the 2 feet, we're now going to explore with the arms a little bit. You're going to inhale the shoulder blades up into the ears, exhale to slide them down your spine, down your back, sorry. Inhale them up into the ears, exhale them down. Knees are just a little bit soft. A couple more here. Inhale up, exhale down. Relax the shoulders. With your legs and pelvis, you're going to bend one knee at a time, and notice how that swings your hips to the opposite side. So you're going to allow that free-flowing swing of the pelvis to happen as you're bending one knee at a time. You can do this very slow, or you can do this quite quickly, whatever feels good in your body today. Now we're going to start to add a shoulder to it. So as one knee bends, that shoulder comes up into the ear, and we switch. And we switch. So it's that same action of the shoulder blade that we were just doing, but we're doing one at a time instead of both together. Now we're going to circle the shoulders. So as one knee bends, the shoulder circles back, and we alternate sides. And play with the rhythm. You could do this quite quickly, you could do it quite slow, go with what feels good. You could take your head to turn with your body, or you can keep the head facing center, or you could look in the opposite direction. Go with what feels good. 2 more times, and release it. We're going to bring the arms bending at the elbows like you're holding a tray. You're going to turn the arms to the outside, and whatever's in your hands, you don't want to spill it. Come on back and lower the arms down. So palms face up, we bend the elbows. Rotate to come to the outside. Come on back to the center and bring them down. Again, Bend, rotate, center, and down. Bend, rotate, center, and down. At any point, if you feel you need to take a break, sit in your chair, do it lying down. All of those options are fine. Or if you need to take a complete break, that's always fine as well. Next one, with the thumbs leading, arms in a bit of a V, we're coming out to the sides and come back down. Lengthen out to the sides and come back down. One more like this, and then we're going to add legs to that and come back down. So you're going to step your feet quite a bit wider than your hips, and you're turning your feet and knees out a little bit. As we lift the arms, we're going to bend the knees to however far feels comfortable and come back up. Always there's the option of doing this same exercise seated in your chair, in which case you eliminate the leg portion and you're doing just the arm portion. Last one. Bring your feet back together, back to hip distance apart. One arm at a time, thumbs leading. We're going to bring the arm up overhead or however far feels good for you today. And we bring that arm back down, alternate sides. Bring the arm up towards the sky or however far feels good today and back down. Continue to alternate. And every now and then, check in with your standing position and see, have I shifted forward and now my back muscles are working harder than they need to? Have I shifted back and my front muscles are working more than they need to? And same thing about your side body. And see if you can remain in that sweet spot that we found at the very beginning. And relax. Take a moment to just shake the body out. Adjust as you need to, change into seated if you need to. We're going to do one more exercise here in standing and then we'll come back to seated. So we're going to bring the arms out to the side as far up overhead as feels comfortable. Bring them down in a W, back up overhead, and wide to come down. So how far you go with that depends on your comfort. So we come up towards the sky or however far you want. Drop the elbows down and close to the waist into this W position. Come back up into that wide V and allow the arms to come down. Twice more. Up. Again, monitor how you're standing. Are your front, back, or side body working harder than they need to, or are they all coordinating together so that you're in that sweet spot in the center? Last time. Up. In, V, and down. You're going to grab your chair again. Actually, I'm going to turn it sideways. So it's better if you have a chair that does not have arms for this one. So we're going to be seated so that one hip drops off of the chair, the other foot is flat on the ground. So from the front, it would look like this. Okay. Pause here for a moment and just feel the weight of that femur coming down towards the floor. And as that femur is reaching down, we're going to reach that same arm up and float it back down. We'll do that again. Reach the arm up and float it down. One more time, reach the arm up. You're going to place the back of that hand on the front of your forehead and just ever so slightly lean away from that leg. Pause here for a full breath in and out. Come on back up tall. You're still going to stay on the side of your chair. This knee and foot are going to point a little bit outwards. This knee and foot are pointing a little bit outwards. Get on your two sit bones. Bring the arms out to the side and a little bit of a lean over that straight leg, just to where it feels comfortable. If it's easier to have the hand on the forehead or to have the hand here or to keep the arm down by your side, those are all great options. Come on back up. Float the arms up. Lengthen and reach. Let the bottom arm come to rest on your thigh, top arm overhead, on the forehead, opposite shoulder, or it never leaves your side. And come on back one more time. Lengthen, reach up and over, whatever variation of the hands you like. And come on back up. Bring that leg in. We're going to sit towards the other side of the chair. So you're dropping the other leg down. And we are looking to open up that hip flexor, but just a little bit. You're not looking for a big stretch position. If you feel a big stretch position, bring that knee forward a little bit so that you're feeling just the beginnings of a sensation of stretch. You're not actually wanting that stretch sensation. Keeping that, think of that femur hanging heavy down towards the floor and float that same arm up overhead and back down. If up overhead feels like too much, you can go to shoulder height. You can go with a bent arm. You do what feels good in your body. Modify as you need to at any time. We're going to keep it here. Back of the hand goes on the forehead and lean the body a little bit away from that leg. Stay here for 2 breaths. Here's a good moment to also check in. Are you leaning forward or back, making the body work harder than it needs to? If so, find that sweet spot in the middle. Come on back, release that arm. So you're gonna send that leg straight out to the side. I say straight out to the side, that's not true. You're on a little bit of an angle. Find the angle that feels okay in your hips. This foot and knee are pointing a little bit out, and the other foot and knee are pointing a little bit out. Find that nice spot with your spine so you can do your little exploration of the space. Find that point where you're on your 2 sit bones and nothing is working harder than it needs to keep you there. Float the arms out to the side. Reach up and over, leaning that bottom arm on the leg. Options of the top arm are hand on the forehead, hand on the opposite shoulder, or the arm just stays down by your side. Whatever version feels good for you. And relax it down. We'll do 2 more like that. Float the arms up, thumbs are leading. If it feels okay, you bring the top arm overhead. If not, you modify it. Whatever version feels good for you. I'm going to keep mine down here. We come back up. One last time. Float the arms up. Come into whatever version of that side bend as it feels good to you. And come on back. Bring that leg in and come back to centered on your chair, on your 2 sit bones, and on your 2 feet. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. We're going to go supported on this one. So for here, my feet are not quite touching the floor, so I'm actually going to bring 2 blocks so that I can be seated with my spine up against the back of the chair and still have my feet on the ground. So same is true for you. It doesn't have to be yoga blocks. It can be a book or whatever you have handy. So take a moment to let your spine be supported by the chair. Arms can be hanging down by your sides or resting on your lap. We're going to point the toes and lengthen the leg to fire up the muscles of the thigh. Hold that for a moment and then slowly let it come back down. We're going to alternate sides. Point the toe, lengthen the leg, pause there, bring it back down. Continue to alternate sides. Once you get the leg lengthened, pause there for a moment before you bring it back down. Every now and then, regardless of what movement we're doing with our body, you can check in with that breath practice that we did at the beginning of class, and you have options. You can do just the sternal breath as you're moving. You could do just the breath where you're bringing the expansion into the lateral rib cage. You can do the breath where you're bringing the breath into the belly and the lower back. Or you can do the version where you're combining all of those. But one of the challenges that we want to introduce is trying to divide our attention between our movement and our breath. One more time on each side. And take a little break. Move your body around as you feel you need. So We want to try to be able to divide our attention between movement and what's happening with the breath. So if a new movement starts to challenge the breath, where either we start holding our breath or the breath becomes quick and or shallow, then reevaluate. Either make the movement smaller, make the movement slower. Try to figure out what you need to change in the movement to get your breath to be slower, softer, smoother again. And then the other thing that we want to bring our awareness to, and you want to try to divide your awareness between the breath, the movement, and the tension that you have in your body. So certain movements, you might notice that you clench your jaw, or you curl your hands into fists, or you tuck your toes under, or maybe you tighten up in the belly or the solar plexus, or you squeeze the butt muscles, or you frown. Every now and then throughout any movement practice, check in with your body tension. And if you've noticed that something has tensed up, pause in your movement, get that under control, get it to soften, and then you join back in. Okay, so let's bring it up to standing again. So again, you always have the option of your chair being there for support if you need it, and or the poles. So we're going to step our feet wider than the hips, significantly wider than the hips. You're going to make a horseshoe out of your thumb and your first finger. And if you bend your knees, our hips make a crease here, right where that crease happens. You're going to place that horseshoe out of your fingers right on the crease of the hip. That's the hip socket basically. And you're going to use the rotation from that socket to turn this leg into a bit of rotation. And however far you can comfortably go from that hip socket, that's where the foot lands. With the other leg, same thing, we're going to turn that back leg in a tiny little bit as well. Once you get to this position, I want you to do this little shake side to side. You should feel that your pelvis is nice and free and able to shake like a church bell, swing like a church bell, okay? If it doesn't, then adapt. Either bring your feet closer together or use more or less rotation and see where can you find that freedom in your pelvis, okay? For this next sequence, you have the option of adding the arms or not, and you have the option of having one hand on the chair or not, or both hands on your poles or not, okay? So we're going to bend that one knee, arms come out to the sides, palms facing up. As we lengthen that knee, we're going to bring the elbows into our waist. So like we did before, I want you to imagine that you're carrying 2 bowls of soup. You don't want to spill a drop. So as we bend the knee, we lengthen to bring the soup to shoulder height. As we bend the knee, or lengthen the knee, we bring the elbows back in. If at any point it feels like it's too much to combine the arms and the legs, then you just omit the arms for now. If you need the support of the chair or 1 or 2 poles for balance, that's always an option. One more time. Release the arms. We're going to turn this leg from that hip socket, turn it in as much as you can, turn it out as much as you can, in as much as you can, out as much as you can, until we're standing back underneath our hips. Step it wide again, not too wide, but a little bit wider than hip distance. Use your horseshoe between thumb and first finger. Bend a little bit to find that hip crease, and then from there you're going to rotate from that hip socket to turn the other leg pointing outwards, and then this one pointing a little bit inwards. Do your little test. Are you able to swing your bell? Are you able to swing your pelvis comfortably side to side? If not, take this moment to adjust so that you can. And then here we go. We're going to bend that front leg. I'm going to go a little wider. Bend that front leg as you lift your bowls of soup. Elbows come in as we straighten the leg. So you'll notice that I'm turning my head to look out over my front hand. That's an option, but if it feels better for you to keep your head looking forward, that's fine. And you can do a combination of both to challenge your balance a little bit if you like. Where you turn to look out as you bend, turn to look forward as you come back up. One last time. Release the arms. With this front leg, you're going to rotate it in, rotate it out, in, out. Stand on the 2 feet. We're going to do one last version of that where we hold the position. So stand a little bit wide, not too much. Use your horseshoe to help find that rotation of the hip to get that to turn out. Other one turns a little bit in. We're going to bend that front knee, just a little bit. Palms facing the ceiling. Eyes look out over the front hand or stays looking forward. I'm going to stay here for 3 breaths. And I'm going to ask you to try to use that combination breath that we found at the beginning, where you're breathing into the sternum, the lateral rib cage, the front and back of the lower belly, and back with each breath. Check in with your body tension. Is there anywhere that has tensed up when you tried to add so many components together? If so, either you just use your awareness to decrease that tension, use your breath to decrease the tension, or modify, back out of the exercise in some way to make it a bit easier for your system. Come on back, rotate that hip in, out, stand on the 2, step it wide, and last time to the other side. So rotate from the hip to turn that front leg open, rotate the back one to turn the back leg just a little bit inwards, not too much. Bend the front leg, lift the arms, eyes look out over the front hand or stays looking forward, whatever feels better for you. We're going to stay here for 3 breath cycles. Try to combine the breath into the sternum, lateral ribs, front and back of the lower belly and back with every breath. And divide your attention between what's happening in your body, what's happening with your breath. Is there any unnecessary muscle tension that has kicked in? Come on back, rotate in, out, back to standing. We're almost done. We're going to inhale the arms up overhead. You're going to round the whole spine like you're a big bear, and you're going to round a little bit like you're trying to hug a big beach ball on your belly. Let the arms fall to the floor as you roll back up tall. So we reach the arms overhead. Imagine you've got a big beach ball in your arms and you're curling your spine, and it's like you're trying to hug that beach ball onto your belly. And then you let the beach ball go as you stand up tall. Reach the arms up. Hold that imaginary beach ball and compress it against your belly. So you're rounding your spine, like so. And then you unroll the spine as you come back up tall. Then we're going to go into the opposite direction, into extension. So you're going to roll your shoulders open and extend through the spine. Come on back to neutral. Roll the shoulders open, extend through the spine. Come back to neutral. How big or how small you make that depends on how good it feels in your body. So you go with what feels good. Let's do 2 more. Roll the shoulders open, extend the spine. One last one. And come on back. Now we're going to bend the knees and let one arm get heavy towards the floor to go into a bit of a side bend. Lengthen the knees to come back up tall. Alternate sides, so one arm really hangs down like a rag doll. Inhale, we come back up tall. Slowly come down. Come back up tall. One more like this, and then you can keep doing the exact same thing, or we're going to add a different arm. So the arm of the side we're leaning towards is going to hang down. The other one is going to reach up towards the ceiling, only if that feels good. And we come back. If you prefer to do all of this in seated, go ahead. It would be just like we did at the beginning of the class. One more time each side. If you enjoy it in standing, but adding the arm in the opposite direction towards the ceiling is too much, then you just keep both arms down by your side. Last one. And then lastly, we're going to do a little rotation. So you're going to turn to one side, keep the knees soft, back to center. Turn to the other side, back to center. We'll keep the arms hanging for these first 2. And then you're going to hold on elbow to elbow and bring them up slightly and take them with you as you turn. Take them with you as you turn. One more time each way. Keep the knees soft. Let your pelvis, let your knees follow that little bit of a twist. And down. One last thing, you can do this in standing or in seated, or actually in lying down too if you prefer. You're gonna bring the arms to the outside, knees soft. I'm gonna turn my body as I bring one hand to touch the other, and then I slide that hand along my body and I follow it with my eyes. So I rotate my body to follow the arm, slide the hand along the arm, follow the fingers with my eyes. One more time. Same thing the other way. So rotate my body to place hand to hand. Follow the fingers with the eyes as I open it in the other direction. And rotate hand to hand. One more time. And release. Grab your chair again. We're going to finish very similar to how we started. So for yourselves, I will invite you to be perched on the edge of your chair with the feet flat, or sit with your spine against the chair, and if you need support to have the feet flat on the ground, you do that. As I said, for my own self, I'm going to go into a cross-legged position for this. We're going to end with the same breath pattern that we started with. We'll go right away to the combined version. So as we breathe in, we're going to fill the sternum, fill the lateral rib cage, fill the front and back of the lower back and belly. You only have two hands, so you choose where you want to put them. I'm going to do as I had done the previous time, one on the sternum, one on the lower back. Eyes open or closed. Go ahead at your own rhythm. And for a few breath cycles, in and out through the nose, fill into the sternum, the lateral rib cage, and the whole lower back and belly. And as you do this, at the same time, divide your attention between focusing on that breath pattern and noticing how your body feels after having done this class. Are there any body tensions anywhere, any muscle tension that's hanging on? If so, while you try to continue with the breath pattern, can you also soften whatever areas might be holding on right now? Are you frowning? Is the jaw clenching? Are the fingers or toes curled? Are you squeezing the butt muscles? Tightening in the abdomen or solar plexus? Hiking the shoulders into the ears. Check in with everywhere in your body and anywhere that might be holding on unnecessarily. While dividing your attention between the breath pattern, see if you can also use your awareness to soften the areas that might be holding on. And then I'd like you to divide your attention between your body tension, the breath, and noticing whether you have any areas of discomfort or pain in your body now. And compare that to what you had at the beginning of the class before we started. Are there any areas that were painful before but actually feel better now? And as you're noticing that, keep a part of your attention on the breath and a part of your attention on checking in with muscle tension. So if you brought your awareness to whether or not you're feeling any pain, and all of a sudden you noticed a certain part of your body got tight, see if you can divide your attention between releasing that body part or that muscle, that area of tension, while still thinking about the pain or the lack of pain, whatever the case may be. And you're basically trying to reassure your system that it's safe. You're acknowledging that either there was pain before that's no longer there, maybe there was pain before and it's still there but it's a different texture, a different intensity, or maybe you didn't have pain when we started and now you do. Whatever of those scenarios are true for you, see if you can allow your awareness to be present, but to also divide your attention between that and keeping the breath long, smooth, slow, and soft, and keeping your body tension low. And then release your hands, let them just come to rest on your thighs, palms facing up. Change positions if you need to, wiggle around if you need to. Eyes closed, we're now just going to check in with the natural breath. So without trying to influence or change your breath at all, just notice what it's doing now. Notice the temperature as you inhale compared to when you exhale. Notice the rhythm. Are your inhales and exhales equal in length, or is one longer or shorter than the other? Notice what parts of the body are expanding on the inhale, retracting on the exhale. And notice the path that the air takes as it comes in through the nose, goes down the throat, into the lungs, and then back out along that same path. And then notice when you're checking in with your natural breath now at the end of class, how is it different than what it felt like at the beginning of class? Perhaps it's not different at all, and that's fine. Or maybe you notice a change of some kind, and if you did, just notice that change, register it. And gently open the eyes into a soft gaze first, and then slowly allow the room to come into focus. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope your body feels good. If you do this practice again on another day, make sure that there's no judgment if on one day you were able to do the whole thing without modifying, and on a different day you had to take breaks or only do half the class or a quarter of the class. It's all positive. It's most important thing is that you learn how to listen to your body. So I think that's actually a really positive sign if you are aware enough to change and adapt as your body needs. That's a thumbs up in my book. Thanks.